and we'll get started. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are today or whenever it is that you're listening to this recording. This is Paul Hoyt. I want to welcome you to our office hours presentation. This is our office hours presentation is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we do every noon at noon Pacific time, almost every noon. We skipped a couple. This recording will be available online for the next few days, and all recordings will be available in our members area. This is office hours number 39. So there are 38 other recordings, each one on a different topic that's available to those who hold the Paul Hoyt Library Pass. The reasons that I do that is because I know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but I also know that it's really tough. You need a lot of training and support. And I think that once you get to know me, that you'll know that not only do I know a lot about business because I've been around the block quite a few times, you'll also know that I care and I really do want to see you succeed. And I am focused and determined to do everything I can to help you meet your business growth goals. The agenda for our calls is that we have an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. I offer some closing remarks, a special offer or two, and an invitation for next week's session. And then we have open questions and answers. First, we like to take questions and comments related to the subject of the day, and then after that, you're welcome to ask whatever questions that you might want to ask. While we're doing the call today, I invite you to join us online, and I know that you're online because you're listening to the call, in our Facebook Brilliant Business Group. And here's a link that you can follow, but you can just go to Facebook and type Brilliant Business Group in the search bar and find it, and we'll let you join us immediately. It's where we make comments and ask questions and share insights and takeaways from the call during the call and then later on as well. And of course, if you want to post any questions related to the call or any other subject related to business at all, post it in the Brilliant Business Group. And not just me, but other people who are a member of the group will jump in and support you in the ways that we can support you. Today's topic is on the puzzle of business and the 4 pillars of business support. As I was talking a little bit before we started the formal presentation and started recording the call, this presentation was going to be strictly on the 4 pillars of business support, and then I got into thinking about how business is really like a puzzle and added that to the beginning of it, and I hope you enjoy that part of the analogy and the discussion as well. As always, we try to relate the call and the subject of the call to one or more of the key performance areas of business, defining the key performance areas and helping you understand what those performance areas are and what it means to be good in each one of those performance areas and how important it is to be good in each one of those performance areas is one of the key distinctions that I have. I don't know, frankly, of any other business consultants that talk about that. Most business consultants talk about one or more of the key performance areas, but they don't talk about all of them. They don't have that CEO's perspective that I have. The subject of today's call is focused strictly on the leadership module because leadership is really about getting the support that you need. Leadership is about solving the puzzle of business and creating a business that's sustainable and profitable and scalable. So we're going to talk about the pillars of business support and how that relates to the leadership area, but it really relates to every area of your business. So when it comes to getting support, when it comes to solving the puzzle of business, it's very important for you to think about that in every single area of business. Today we're going to talk about the business puzzle a little bit. We're going to talk about the 4 pillars of business support. I'm going to give you some examples about how you can apply the 4 pillars of business support to key performance areas, and then we're going to sum it all up, as we always do, with the bottom line. First, I want to talk about the challenge of business. Now, if you've been in business for any time at all, you know that business is a challenge. And in the 3 previous office hours presentations that I have done, I've talked about the 7 key performance areas of business in detail. I've talked about how important it is to have a business foundation profile for your business. In other words, to know how you are performing right now in relationship to each one of those key performance areas and in relationship to the way that you really want to perform in order to have a successful, thriving business. I also talked a lot about a business complexity profile and how important it is to understand that all businesses are not created the same and that some businesses are a lot more complex than other ones. Here's one of my favorite charts that you'll see in my presentations from time to time, where I've taken 14 different types of businesses and analyzed the complexity of those businesses across the 7 key performance areas and given each business a score. And those scores range from a very simple business, which is selling roses on the street corner, which has a complexity factor only of a 9, up to the most complex business that I've worked with and analyzed, which is bringing a new medical device to market, which has a score of 52. And it's more than just 5 times as complex. I think there's a little bit of an exponential curve here. In other words, I think bringing a new medical device product to market may be 100 times more complex than selling roses by the street corner, maybe even more than that. So this curve is not linear. It's got a little bit of an exponential or a logarithmic arithmetic mathematical treatment to it. So every business is a little bit different. Some businesses that you have are like putting together a 4-piece jigsaw puzzle. Just doesn't take any time at all. All you got to do is take the pieces out of the box, lay them down on the card table or the table in which you're working the puzzle, and boom, you're done. And that's a very simple business that you can start in a matter of minutes. Would be like selling roses by the street corner. All you had to do is go buy a dozen roses and then go out to the street corner and sell them for hopefully more than you bought them for. It's very simple business. Some businesses are more complex, such as a lawn mowing service. So a lawn mowing service is more complex than selling roses by the street corner because you've got a fixed asset, your lawn mower itself. You've got fuel that's being consumed, so you have some direct costs. You've got some safety factors that you have to watch out for. It's typically a little higher priced, so there's a little longer sales cycle. In other words, doing a lawn mowing service is more complex than selling roses by the street corner. Other businesses are far more complex than that. They've got a lot more pieces to them. A coaching business, for example, is more complex because there's a less tangible outcome. It's more difficult to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Even a more complex business than that might be doing government contracting services. It's more complex than those other businesses because of the rules and the regulations around doing contract work for the federal government. There's something called the DCAA, the Defense Department Contractors and Accounting Association, which has very specific requirements of the way that people need to interact with the federal government. So it's a much more complex business than a coaching business. And the most complex one of all, well, you can see the picture here on your screen. The medical device company can be like having a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle or a 3,000-piece jigsaw puzzle in front of you, where you not only have pieces, but you've got pieces hidden underneath pieces that you don't even see. So businesses come in a lot of different flavors. Some are very simple, some are extremely complex. And I hope that this analogy works well for you. When I was a young man growing up, one of the things that we used to do in our family was lay out a jigsaw puzzle on a card table, and Pops would work it with us, and the kids would chime in, and he tried to get us not to chew on the puzzle pieces when we were younger. And it always seemed to be a little bit of a competition about who could put in more puzzle pieces. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure I'll come up with another analogy for working puzzles these days, because I guess it's not very many families that actually lay out a jigsaw puzzle on a card table in the family room anymore, that we work puzzles online. So I'll come up with a slightly different analogy going down the line. But it's a pretty good analogy for growing and starting your business. And the challenge for every business owner is that you need to solve the puzzle. It's really, really helpful for you when it comes to solving the puzzle to see what the big picture is, to have a very clear vision of what you want to accomplish. I don't know if you've ever tried to work a 500-piece or a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle without looking at the picture, but it can be very challenging. It's very helpful to see the picture, to understand what it is that you are building before you set out to doing it. Otherwise, you're just in a constant mode of discovery, and it's absolutely going to take you longer to do that. And when it takes you longer in business, that means it's going to cost you more, and it means that the risk is greater as well. So step number one when it comes to solving the puzzle is seeing the big picture and having a very clear vision. It's really helpful to turn over the pieces. As it turns out that not very many business owners go into business even understanding what the pieces of the puzzle are, and not very many business consultants can see the pieces of the puzzle and explain them to the business owner. I know that when I started my business consulting practice in 2001, 13 years ago, I had worked for 20 different companies over the previous 34 years, so I had a pretty good idea of what businesses were all about and had seen a lot of them. But now that I've worked with hundreds of businesses, I have a pretty good sight of what the pieces of the puzzle are for you, regardless of the size of business that you have and regardless of which stage of growth that you are in. But here's one fundamental rule. The bigger the puzzle, the more complex the business is, the more important it is to think it through and to do the planning and to get the support that you want, because it's going to take you longer, it's going to cost you more. So it's really, really helpful for you to understand that business before you jump into the business. And if you've listened to any of these presentations before, and I'm certain if you listen to any of them coming up, you'll hear me say time and time again that most business owners start the business without even understanding what the job is. They think that the job is doing what they love to do. They are wanting to be a coach, so they go into a coaching business thinking that the job is being a coach, when that's really a small part of the job. Doing what they love to do may be 30% of the job, it might be 40% of the job, but it's nowhere close to being the entire job. And in the early days of business, it's not the job at all. In the early days of business, it's defining your product. It's developing your marketing. It's finding those leads, and it's sales. So it's really about product development, marketing, and sales in the early stages of business before you get those clients. And later on, by the way, as you scale your business and you find yourself not being able to do the things that you really love to do because you're hiring other people, you're achieving greatness through the efforts of others. And that means that as the business grows, you don't get to do what you love to do. It's only in that interim phase when you've got some clients and before you start delegating all the delivery of the service to somebody else that you get to do what you really love to do. The rest of the job is much different. And solving the puzzle means that sequencing is the key. It's really understanding the step-by-step program of doing the right things right first and doing the next things next. The challenge is putting together the puzzle and solving for, first of all, survivability, because you have to be able to survive before you can have profits, and solving for profitability. Then I encourage you to think about sustainability, which means balancing your product portfolio and balancing your customer portfolio and developing systems that deliver reliable clients, reliable revenues and profits every single month. And then we can start thinking about scalability. One of the things that I think gets business owners in a lot of trouble is they start thinking about growing a massive business from the very beginning. And they focus on scalability, and they focus on increasing their overhead and doing the things that very big companies do, and they forget about survivability, profitability, and sustainability because their vision for the business is so huge. One of the things that I coach them on, of course, is to first of all, let's engage with the marketplace, and then let's have a relentless pursuit of financial stability so that they can have a sustainable business, so then they can think about scaling that business. It's really important at each step of the way that you learn what you need to learn so that you can do what you need to do. And that's a very, very essential skill. And in order to do that, in order to learn what you need to learn so that you can do what you need to do, there are 4 pillars of business support. And here they are. The 4 pillars, and we're going to talk about each one of them individually, are education, training, the tools, and the team. When you get the proper education, the proper training, the right tools at your disposal, and the right team surrounding you, you have a much, much higher probability of business survivability and sustainability and scalability. Let's talk about these 4 pillars individually. Education is in the things like fundamental business concepts or fundamental concepts of product development, the fundamental concepts of marketing, the fundamental concepts of sales, the fundamental concepts of each one of the key performance areas, and understanding what business success principles are in every area of your business. That general foundational education is why I created my CEO training program called Beyond Business Survival that gives you the training or the education that you need in each one of the key performance areas with all of the business success principles that I've amassed over the years. Here's some examples of that education that you might get in addition to my Beyond Business Survival CEO training program. You might study a little bit about employment law. If you're going to hire employees for the first time, it's important for you to understand the laws around hiring employees, about what you can say and can't say during interview processes, about forming good agreements, about your liabilities to pay workman's compensation and to withhold payroll tax from them and remit to government agencies appropriately. So if you're hiring employees for the first time, it's important for you to get education in the area of employment law. I think general education in the area of business law is important to understand what your rights and privileges are when it comes to business and what those unspoken laws are with regards to the things like the Uniform Commercial Code, and if you're having a food product, about health and safety laws, etc. I think it's important for you to have a grounding in education in fundamental accounting principles. You can run a small business, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year perhaps, without really having a good grounding in accounting. But at some point in time, it's going to be very helpful for you to understand what an asset is and what a liability is, to understand what a debit and a credit is, to understand what revenues and expenses are, and to understand general accounting language and general accounting principles, because that's the way you communicate with bankers, and that's the way you communicate with investors, and that's the way you keep score in business. So getting some grounding education in accounting principles can be most valuable to you. It's also important for you to get education in competitive strategies, like how do we compete with other people? What are the four different primary competitive strategies of better, faster, cheaper, and different, and why are those important when it comes to developing marketing programs and product development programs? So I think it's very important for you to get that fundamental foundational education in business, because it's going to make your whole job go a little bit better. It's going to make your life a tremendous amount easier. But in addition to training, in addition to education, there's also training. The difference is that education is on foundational principles, and training is the how-to. Training is the step-by-step instructions about how I actually do the job. There are a lot of different training programs available to you today, and they come in a lot of different forms. Some of them might be self-paced, like my Business Survival Boot Camp and my Beyond Business Survival program. You might also have virtual training, which is online training, and you might have instructor-led training. These office hours presentations that I do are part education and part training, because we do get into the how-to step-by-step programs in addition to the education programs. Some people love to learn on their own, and some people love to learn with an instructor in a classroom environment so they can ask questions and enter into discussions about the fundamental programs that are being offered and the training steps that are being offered. Here's some examples. You might get sales training is really important. Most business owners, and this is always a surprise to me, but most business owners go into business without having adequate sales training, and it really causes them problems. So I encourage people to be a consummate sales professional, and not just to take sales training once, but to stay in the game, to stay in the conversation, to get sales training essentially all the time, to always be learning new tips and techniques when it comes to sales. If you're having those employees, remember we talked about the fundamentals of employment law, but it's also important for you to get training in payroll processing, because payroll processing means, collecting the right wage and hour statements. It means making sure that you're doing your deductions right and setting up your benefits right. It means remitting payroll taxes. Most people, by the way, outsource payroll, but if you choose to do the payroll yourself, it's really important for you to get basic fundamental training in payroll systems. It's important for you to get in training in interview processes as well. We talk about that with employment law. But having great interview techniques and understanding what questions to ask and how to ask follow-up questions, and understanding what questions not to ask, because they're essentially against the law to ask those questions is very important for you if you're going to go do interviewing for the first time and hire employees for the first time. And I think project management training and operations management training is very important too. In fact, today's Energy of the Day message was on projects, where we defined a project as being a series of tasks typically collaboratively done, which are designed to have very specific outcomes. And growing a business is executing a project, and you'll find as you operate your business that having great project management skills is essential for your business as well. There are dozens, if not hundreds and hundreds of training programs available for small business owners. And I encourage you to make sure that you're getting the training that's just right for you in your business as you go forward. In addition to training, the third pillar, one other one, food handling training. If you find yourself running that hot dog stand, it's important for you to get training in food handling techniques, and you actually have to get certified in that. Typically, every city or every state will require some sort of certification when it comes to food handling as well. The third pillar of business support is on tools, and those tools make it easier for you to do the job. They are software, the hardware, the systems that you put into place that are designed to increase your productivity. And here's some examples of some very good tools that you might have for your business. Your computing system, your desktops, your laptops, your tablets, and your smartphones, and all of the software that goes along with that. The most popular accounting system out there is QuickBooks, which has about an 80% market share for businesses, I would say, with less than $1 million in revenue. So that can be a tool that makes the accounting of your business be oh so much easier than it used to be when we were doing it by hand with pencil and paper or with just spreadsheets years and years ago. Google, or being able to search and have the world's information available at your fingertips, is an essential tool for you to learn to operate for your business. And then there's the Microsoft Office suite of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that can be very, very helpful to your business and make it more efficient for you to operate business. Every once in a while, I run into somebody that doesn't have a computer system, that doesn't have an email address, that doesn't know how to use Microsoft Word or Outlook or really operate their system the way that they need to. And my advice to those people is always get the right education, get the right training that you need so that you can put those tools into place. And those tools oftentimes do require a lot of training in order for you to operate it effectively. You know, when I grew up, when I was learning to program computers, the first step that we always had was to read the manual. We used to have this joke about RTFM, which meant read the fine manual. Whenever somebody asked a question that they should have known the answer to, but they had never read the manual, or it really never sunk into them. So I'm a big fan of education in addition to training so that you can properly use the tools that you've got for your business in your business. The last pillar of business support is on team, and I did an entire office hours presentation on this. Office hours presentation number 15 was on massive support, and in that we defined the different types of team members that you might have according to their functional responsibilities, the mindset or the attitude that they bring to your particular business situation, the legal relationship that you have with them, whether they're contractors or employees, the commitment that they have, whether it's a long-term or a short-term commitment, and the tour of duty that they have, the level in your organization, and the size of team that you are putting into place. So if you have questions about how to get a team and how to form a team and how to manage your team, I strongly encourage you to go back and listen to Office Hours number 15 on getting massive support. Getting massive support for your business, by the way, is business success principle number 2 in my CEO training program, Beyond Business Survival. And it's very important for you to get an adequate team in place across all of the key performance areas. So when you take those 4 pillars of business support and map them across all of the 7 key performance areas, you can get a chart that looks something like this. This means in the area of leadership, we want you to get the proper leadership education, have the proper leadership training, have the proper leadership tools in place, and have the proper leadership team in place. In the area of financial management, it's important for you to get the right education in financial management principles, to have training in balancing checkbooks, in running payroll, in managing your cash flow, about having the right tools in place like QuickBooks, and about having the right team in place, which might be your bookkeepers or your CPAs or your part-time CFOs in place, in order to solve your business puzzle, in order to put all of these pieces in place. And you do need to put all of these pieces in place. And what we've mapped up here in front of you is a simple 28-point jigsaw puzzle, or puzzle that you need to put in place in all of the key performance areas of business. And as we'll find out next week, those pieces of the puzzle are much different from business to business. Some of them are easy to define, some of them are not, etc. But I want you to think about putting your puzzle together with the 4 pillars of business support across all of the key performance areas of business. I want to give you a little example of what that might mean. In the area of sales, to put together your sales success team requires education in things like basic sales cycles and basic sales processes and in sales mindset. It requires training in writing effective scripts, in writing effective appointment setting and closing scripts, and training in pipeline management techniques. And in fact, I did an office hours presentation on pipeline management techniques that you can look up because you've got access to my library. It requires you to have the right tools in place in lead tracking systems and customer relationship management systems in place so that you can manage your relationship with your prospects and with your customers appropriately. And it oftentimes requires the right support in having a sales trainer and a sales coach or hiring sales professionals. So this is what it looks like to put your puzzle pieces together in the key performance area of sales. Get the right education, get the right training, get the right tools in place, and get the right team in place so that you can have competency and even excellent in the area of sales. I'm going to give you one more example, and that is in the key performance area of leadership, which is the first one and the most important one. I think it's very important for you to get the right education in business models, in what it means to have a profitable product business, or what it means generally to have a profitable service business, and the right education in the area of business success principles. I think it's very important for you to get the right training in the areas of like managing your employees, recruiting and hiring and managing your employees. Training in the area of relationship skills and mindset skills, the way that you shift your energy, the way that you can pick yourself up when you are down, the way that you can calm yourself down when you're excited or agitated. Very, very important in the area of leadership to have the right training in those areas and to have the right tools in place, like key performance indicators, and that's what KPI stands for. Key performance indicators and dashboard systems that will help you understand how your business is coming along and how you are managing your business according to the goals and objectives that you have. And another key tool of leadership is goal achievement systems, to have those in place, the way by which you define your goals, keep track of your progress according to those goals, and communicate your goals to other members of your team. And of course, it's important for you to have a good team in place. And I think that every single business owner out there needs to have a CEO coach, whether it be me or somewhere else, somebody else. Get a mentor, get advisors on your team who can help you face the challenges, address the issues that come up, solve the problems that come up along the way. So here's the bottom line. I think that every business is a puzzle. It's a puzzle that you're constantly solving day after day after day. And that every puzzle is different. Every business puzzle is different. My puzzle of business is not the same as your business puzzle. Some are very, very easy and some are exceedingly complex. I think that the 4 pillars of business support, education, training, tools, and team, are there to help you put together your puzzle and solve it for yourself. The trick is in seeing all of the pieces and making some very good choices about the sequence with which you put your business puzzle together, because you can't put them all in at once. Now, creating a business of any size is about putting dozens, if not hundreds, of pieces in place for your business, and you can't put them in all at once, and that's why you need coaching and mentoring and to get a puzzle master on your team to help you do that. So that was our agenda for today. We're going to close here a little bit. We talked about how putting together a business is like solving a puzzle. We talked about the four pillars of business support. I gave you some examples in the area of sales and leadership about how you might put those pillars in place for yourself, and we talked a little bit about the bottom line. So here's your homework. I want you to think about what your missing pieces are. Think about the most important challenges that you're facing in business right now today, and think about putting the pieces of your puzzle in place so that you can address those challenges, so that you can fight those fires. I want you to focus on the four pillars of business support across all 7 of the key performance areas, and if you need support, then get yourself a CEO coach. In just a minute, we're going to open it up for open questions and answers, where we're going to invite you to have comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues that you want to talk about. If you have a question, you can type it into the chat log, because Marcel and Stephanie are standing by to take your questions, and we will address them here in just the next few minutes. I also want you to let me know what your biggest takeaways were, or the insights that you gained from this presentation, and post them in the Brilliant Business Group, Facebook group that we have, and tell me what you're going to focus on in the next week or so. As you know, that my approach as a business consultant, as a CEO coach, is that, first of all, I just love being a CEO coach. I love being that puzzle master. I love being that person who can help you figure out which pieces of your puzzle to put in next, and give you the training and the education and the support that you need, the advice, the mentorship, etc., to make that as simple and as easy and as painless and as cost-effective as possible. I'm really passionate about helping you make amazing progress in your business over the next 90 days, and to provide that fundamental training and education that you need to avoid those huge mistakes that can slow you down or shut you down in business. So if you're listening to this live, or if you're listening to a recording of that, I encourage you to call me for a free 30-minute strategy or problem-solving session. In those sessions, we'll invite you to check in with your status in business, and I'll do my very best to help you solve a problem or choose a course of action that's just right for you, and then we'll see if there's a way that I can support you longer term. I'm sure that there is, because I have a lot of tools and a lot of available programs that are available for you. Our next office hours presentation will be on July the 14th. That's a week from today, and we're going to talk more about the puzzle of business, because as I mentioned in my pre-call conversations here, I really got off on the analogy of seeing your business as a project and seeing your business as a puzzle that needs to be solved. So I have a lot more that I'm going to share with you, and we're going to share it next week in our office hours presentation. In between now and then, if there are things that you would like to see me address, you can go to paulssurvey.com. That's www.paulssurvey.com, and provide some suggestions for future office hours presentations. And I encourage you to do your homework. So now we're going to open it up to comments and questions on the topic of the day, and any other issues then that you want to talk about. Again, here's some links for you with paulssurvey.com. You can contact me at paul@paulhoyt.com, or call me or text me on my phone number, 415-997-8001. And if you want to schedule one of those 30-minute strategy sessions, or if you want to have a 15-minute check-in session, you can go to schedulepaul.com and pick a time that works for you to make sure that we connect. So that's the call that we had today. I'm going to open it up now to questions and answers and invite Marcel. Marcel, did we have any questions come in for today?
Yeah, we sure did. So a quick one, what software would you recommend for accounting, CRM, and lead tracking? That was a more specific one.
For accounting purposes, I strongly recommend QuickBooks. It's the de facto industry standard out there, and I think that you have to have a good reason not to use QuickBooks if you're a very small business. It doesn't cost very much. It's either $10 or $15 a month if you're leasing it, or it can be a few $100s to purchase it. You don't need to purchase it every single year. I typically skip a couple of years. So every other year or so, it costs you $300 or so. By the way, if you're putting in QuickBooks for the first time, I think it's very important for you to buy the services of a QuickBooks Pro advisor, or at least get somebody on your team who has implemented QuickBooks before, so that you get it set up right from the very beginning. They have a lot of charts of accounts that are available to you, and it's important for you to select those systems options from the very start, depending on whether you're a product business or a service business, or if you're doing any governmental accounting. They have a completely different account structure. So get somebody on your team who's been there and done that before when it comes to setting up QuickBooks. With CRM systems, there's a lot of them out there that I have used. So when it comes to CRM in the form of just going out and communicating with your target list, there's products like SwiftPage and Constant Contact that can be very good. If you want to integrate a product cart solution into that, there's a system that I used for a number of years called One Shopping Cart, which worked very well for me for, I guess, 8 or 9 years in my business. But a year ago, I made the decision to go with what I think is the Cadillac of the industry, which is Infusionsoft. And Infusionsoft is used by most people who have a list with, I would say, over 5,000 or 10,000 people in the list, because it really helps you manage your list and manage your communication with your audience extremely well. In fact, I studied Infusionsoft for a few hours over the weekend, so I know a lot more about it today than I did, before the holiday weekend started. And it's the Cadillac of the industry. So if you're thinking about having a list with 5,000 or 10,000 on it or more, you might bite the bullet and go to Infusionsoft. It's more expensive than the other solutions out there, but it has some really great features. And there are a lot of other ones out there too. I have a lady that I worked with for a while who has a product called Ventive, V-E-N-T-I-V-E, I believe. It might have 2 N's in there. That is a competitor to Infusionsoft that you may find to be perfect to you as well. Have a lot of the features that Infusionsoft has, but not the expense that Infusionsoft has. Hope that answered that question. Did I catch that question? Was there another tag along to that question, Marcel?
I believe you answered it all. Thank you.
Okay.
And then also back to the puzzle pieces, how do you see the big picture and then turn over the pieces,
Seeing the big picture is a tough part, because most people, as I say, is kind of my mantra, my drum that I keep beating, is that most people take the job of being a business owner without knowing what the job is. I think the key is to get somebody on your team who has the type of experience that I have. And I'm not so arrogant or overconfident to think that I'm the only business coach that you can have, because I've met a lot of business coaches out there. But I know that after you've been a business consultant for a number of years, you start to see the big picture for all kinds of different businesses out there. And we understand, what your business complexity profile looks like. We can help you create your business foundation profile. We can help you figure out your business activity profile. I know that's a lot of profile words, but it's very important for you to understand how complex your business is and why. It's important for you to understand how you are performing relative to the way that you really need to perform in each area of business. And it's important for you to understand what to focus on right now today. And that's pretty difficult to do if you haven't started and grown a lot of businesses before. So if you're a serial entrepreneur and you've been in business for 20 years and you've started and grown and sold 5 or 6 businesses, you can probably do it without the support of a coach, although if you've done that, you probably understand how valuable it is to have a coach on your team, even if you've been there and done that before. But if you've not been there and done it before, if you're new to business, or if you're struggling in business, then I think it's real important for you to get a coach on your team to help you see the big picture and understand what competence means in each one of those areas of business, and can help you figure out exactly what steps might be the right steps for you. Next question, Marcel.
Okay, excellent. Should I have a huge business or a smaller one?
Wow. Well, that is the tough question. Let me take a really big, if you're a person who loves risk and who really wants to go for the big reward and wants to create that billion-dollar business, then, almost by definition, you have to bite off a really big bullet. You really have to go for the gold, and think about having hundreds of people working at your business, if not thousands of people working at your business, so you can create that billion-dollar business. And I live and work here in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. In Silicon Valley, there's an incredibly sophisticated capital system out here that's designed to do just that, to help you create the next Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, or Twitter and grow a very massive business. But businesses like that have a very low probability of survival. In fact, in Silicon Valley, it's about 1 in 10,000. So if you want to have a slightly higher probability of success, then the key to doing that is to have a less complex business, is to have a business that's simpler. And I take that more conservative approach. I think that survivability is real important. Listen, if you've got a wife and kids, or if you've got a husband and kids, if you're investing your family's income, your family's retirement in your business, I think it makes perfect sense for you to make that business as low risk as possible. You can't afford to put your family at risk. You can't afford to put all of your life savings at risk in a business without it having a fairly high probability of success. So simpler businesses, by definition, a simpler business has a higher probability of success. That's why I encourage people to engage with the marketplace as quickly as possible so that you can learn the lessons that only the marketplace can teach you, and then to have a relentless pursuit of financial stability so that you can have a profitable business and a sustainable business. Because when you do that, then you can grow that business from a position of strength. There are lots of things that you can do to increase the complexity of your business. You can bring a high-tech product to market. You can raise capital for your business. You can think about growing a business that's monstrous in scale and size. There are lots of things that you can do to increase the complexity of your business, and likewise, there are lots of things that you can do to decrease the complexity of your business. And almost by definition, the things that you can do to reduce the complexity of business increase your probability of success. It might also, by the way, reduce the potential income for you. So you have to make sure that you're going after a business that is of adequate size so that, you know, if $30,000 a year income is just right for you, then go after a business that has a high probability of success that will generate a $30,000 a year income. If you need to have $100,000 a year income in order to really support your family and take care of your personal financial needs in the way that you want to, then go after a business that has the highest probability of success but will also generate $100,000 a year income for yourself. And that's the balance. We want to balance out the income potential of the business with the complexity of the business, with the probability of success of the business, so that you can have a business that's just right for you. And by the way, those same principles apply if you're already in business. If you're already in business, then you can apply the complexity factors and you can apply the success principles to your business to increase your revenues and profits, to increase your personal financial take out of the business without substantially increasing your probability of failure, without substantially decreasing your probability of success. That, by the way, also takes an experienced business coach or a CEO coach in order to help you figure out how to do that. You know, how can you grow the business in revenue and profits so that you can struggle less and enjoy the fruits of your labors even more? It's kind of a long-winded answer, but gosh, I had fun with it. So Marcel, next question, please.
That was great. Thank you. How do you see technology in videos helping you increase profitability while decreasing complexity?
That's an interesting one. So the first part of that is technology in videos that has to do with how we employ technology into our business. And that, by the way, is one of the huge challenges of business, is technology is changing so rapidly that we have to constantly stay at the leading edge, not necessarily the bleeding edge, but certainly at the leading edge or advanced edge of technology in order to even survive in business today. 30 years ago, marketing was all about television, radio, and print advertising. Now it's about social media and internet and e-commerce marketing. Marketing is the area of business, the single most impacted key performance area of business. Of all the 7 that I have defined and work with, marketing is the one where technology is driving changes in that area more so than it is in all of the other areas. So generally speaking, you need to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to marketing your business, and that means having expertise in video and digital marketing techniques, in social media marketing techniques. And frankly, that can be a challenge for old geezers like myself to be able to do that. Marcelle is chuckling in the background because she's been coaching me now for months about having more and more videos on my website. I'm certainly getting comfortable about having these office hours presentations and being in front of the camera. But one of the things that I'm still trying to learn to do is take out my smartphone and create a little video message and record it every once in a while. I'm a kind of a conservative guy, and as many of you probably don't know, that I have a long history of a hobby of being a stage actor. And when it comes to singing in public and when it comes to acting in public, it's all about rehearsal and scripts. So I'm used to performing in public, but I'm used to doing it with a fair amount of rehearsal. Doing ad hoc, karaoke kind of performances is something that is definitely a new trick for this old dog. But I recognize the importance of it, so I'm working on that. I really am, Marcel. Every single day I'm thinking about bringing out my smartphone and recording a little video. I'm not sure I answered that question. Was there a second part to that question there?
No, that was perfect. You're in the game and you're doing great, Paul.
Thank you,
Stephanie has some questions now.
Okay.
Well, my question actually is I was reminded of it from some of the things that you've been talking to us about. And one of the things I know that I run into with my clients a lot is it's very stressful trying to keep up with everything that you have to keep up with being a CEO of your own company. And so actually you taught me this many years ago, and I wrote it down, and it's still on my wall, where you say the CEO doesn't have to know everything. You have to have your finger on the pulse of everything, but you don't have to know everything. So one of the things that I'm curious about is as you're building your team, right, to help you with all those things that you don't know how to do, right? Instead of getting spastic about it, we just go out and build our team. So is that one of the things that you can help your clients with? Figuring out, okay, what is it exactly that I do have to know? How do I know when it's okay to outsource? How do I know when it's okay to back off? I always think of that story of Henry Ford when they asked him, do you know how to build a car? You must be incompetent if you can't tell us how to build an engine. And he says, I'm just going to pick up the phone and call my engineer that I pay megabucks for. Yeah. He'll tell you how to build an engine, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's always the balance about, ideally, when you're running, let's say that you're running a $10 million a year business. When you're running a $10 million business, you're not doing everything. You can't be doing everything. You probably have a staff of 100 to 200 people at that size of a business that are doing the work for you. And when I teach people about leadership, I tell them that leadership and management is really about achieving greatness through the efforts of others. It's about understanding what the job is, understanding what qualifications and experience are necessary in order to do a great job at that job, and then hiring and managing the right people so that they can do the work for you. Small businesses, especially those with 5 or fewer employees, which, by the way, is about 85 to 90% of every business in the United States today has 5 or fewer employees, means that the business owner has to be wearing multiple hats. They're in charge of leadership and maybe sales, or they're in charge of financial management and product development, but somebody else, and leadership, of course, but somebody else is doing the marketing and the sales and the customer service. It really depends on your skill set, your aptitude, your ability to pick up things very quickly, and the requirements of your business in the next 90 days. So, for example, if your business is just starting out and you don't have a product or service to sell yet, as we talked about earlier in the presentation, your number one job is defining your products, building the product, engaging with the marketplace, listening to the marketplace, and selling your product or service so you can have clients to serve. And that may be something that you have experience with, or it may be something that you need training and education with. And the key is to get a coach on your team to help you figure out what are the top 3 to 5 goals for you to focus all of your time and attention on for the next 90 days, and then help you figure out which ones of the duties, which ones of the tasks can you do yourself versus outsourcing to other people and how to go get those people and how much to pay those people so that you can make sure the job gets done. That's your fundamental responsibility of being a leader, is to make sure that the job gets done. One of the reasons I stress that foundational training, or foundational education rather, is so important is it's so that you can have those conversations with a business coach, so that you can have the conversations with marketing experts and sales trainers and product development experts and engineers and the customer service specialists, so that you can understand what one looks like and talks like, so that you can understand that whether or not that person is right for your team. It's really difficult to have conversations with potential team members if you can't speak their language at all. I did an office hours presentation on what to do with that a few weeks ago and talked about the 3 expert rule. Don't know which office hours presentation that was, but we did do a conversation about that. So, I mean, that's the bottom line. Whenever I coach my clients, it's really about do you have the right education and training necessary in order to do a job? What do you want to accomplish in the next 90 days? And what skills and resources do you need to have in place in order to get those things done, in order for you to meet your goals over the next 90 days? And how can I support you in building the puzzle out and getting the team members in place, about getting the tools in place, about getting the right training, and about getting the right education so that you can accomplish what you really need to accomplish in the next 90 days, all the time, with a relentless pursuit of financial stability. Next question. Are you there, Stephanie? You may be on mute. Marcel, are you with us?
Yes, I was on mute.
Oh, there you
go.
Okay.
Yep. That's the only other questions I see are specifically about some software.
Okay.
There's some questions about the different databases and other online software that you recommend for businesses.
Well, we've only got 5 more minutes, and if those are the questions that are left, to go ahead and ask away, and I'll see if I can help.
Okay. Any recommendations between the Windows, Linux, and Mac for business owners? Hardware platforms.
Well, I choose to run a Windows platform, and the reason I choose to run a Windows platform is because when I started working with Windows, golly geez, 20 years ago, 22, 25 years ago, it was a de facto standard. They had a 90 to 95% market share on all business desktops. So over the years, I have accumulated a lot of software and a lot of expertise in the Windows environment, so that's why I choose to use that. I think that's the default reason. People who are highly creative, artists, musicians, love the Macintosh platform or love the Apple platform. I don't know if it's not called Mac anymore. It's called Mac or Apple iOS and Apple OS. And I have used that from time to time in the past, but I simply choose to use a Windows platform because I've got an investment of thousands of dollars of software and years of training and learning curve invested in that platform. So that's the one that if there's not a good reason to use one of the other ones, then I think Windows is the first choice simply because it's the most popular choice, which means that you'll be able to find people who are familiar with that and know how to use it and have a lot of software that's available for it that you can't have, I believe, in the Apple environment. Now, I'm sure that there are a lot of Apple enthusiasts out there that are going crazy about now. But, you know, God bless you if you choose to be an Apple enthusiast, because there are people out there that just love that platform too. So I think it's the one that you get the most familiar with and you have the most investment in terms of software and in terms of learning curve that can be most helpful to you. I don't have a lot of experience with the Linux platform, but if you are a software developer, it can be really handy to have a Linux platform environment because it can be really, really powerful and can run extremely fast. So if you're hosting your own applications, if you're hosting your own servers, Linux is the first choice of almost everyone when it comes to hosting databases and hosting application environments because it's heavily customizable and will run, 25, 30% more cost effectively than the other platforms do, because it has a different design in it. So I think, to sum that up, Windows would be my first choice. Apple would be my first choice if you're highly creative, because there's lots of wonderful creative software available to that. If you're running business, then Windows is my first choice, and Linux would be my first choice for running, I would say, hardware-intensive applications that, like servers or database management systems in the background. And I've told you practically everything I know about operating systems. But if you need to know more, I've got people out there on my team that are professionals, that are part-time CIOs, and really specialize in helping small businesses implement and fine-tune and polish and troubleshoot the infrastructures that they have, that I can put you in contact with. We got 12:59. One more question before we call it a day? Any more?
That's it on our end.
All right. Then we will call it a day, and I want to thank you all for attending live or listening to this recording. There are 38 other office hours recordings out there for you, and hopefully one of them is just right to give you the education and the training that you need in order to move forward in your business. And call me or go to schedulepaul.com if you'd like to have a free 30-minute strategy session where we can talk about ways in which I can help you accomplish your goals. So until the next time, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.